Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can you believe it? The first Q&A of 2025. Actually surprises me. It scares me a little bit that we're already halfway or more than halfway through this month. So the whole idea behind these is that every Friday I turn up. Today I'm on a dodgy leg, so I don't actually know if this is good for me to be standing for an hour, but anyway, we'll wait and see. Which, I'm looking at up top there. But yeah, let's get started with Q&A for this week. It's basically for the wealth hackers and for the mastermind members. And again, I won't be giving any financial advice, but I will be kind of taking you through some thoughts and understandings, etc. So just a quick one. Type in the chat box quickly for me. And I know I only put it up this morning. So, but one of our wealth hackers, Augustinus, actually shared with me the video from Ray Dalio. And I'm just interested if you've seen it, the little video that I shared. So just type in the chat box if you just mind saying yes or no. I'm just interested. So Shona said not yet. It's about 25 minutes long. So it's quite long. It's like nearly 30 minutes long. No. Okay. So no one's seen it. Has anyone seen it? Does anyone want to say yes in terms of that process? Okay. So it's really interesting because what Ray Dalio talks about, and let me just go and find you a quick presentation here. Where's it going now? I don't know where it is now. Okay, what I'll do then is I'll show you this. So one of the things I really enjoy about Ray Dalio, and is it in this presentation or the other one? No, it's the other one. Just give me 2 seconds. I just want to get you the right presentation. Just my interest, while I'm bringing this up, just type in the chat box. Have you read Principles yet by Ray Dalio? Or do you, or like in simple terms, do you know who Ray Dalio is? Yes or no? I'm just interested, like whether I'm dealing with people who've never heard of him or whether people have heard of him. So no, have heard of him, but not read any of his books. Yes. It's on my reading list, but I haven't got to it. Glenn, good luck with it. It's like 19 hours. I don't read, but I listen, but it's like 19 hours. It's a very long book. Okay, so let me show you what I wanted to share with you here. So there's two things that if you want to I call it a wealth hack, but in simple terms, I went and looked at all of Ray Dalio's stuff and I read all of his books. So he's got a book called Principles. And then he's also got he does a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. And what he basically shares with people is, in essence, is this. So you've got growth on the left-hand side, and you've got time at the bottom. And then this straight line graph is based on productivity. And then what you've effectively got, so this long-term thing here is productivity. You've got the short-term debt cycles, which are kind of 5 to 8 years. So as you know, economies kind of move in kind of 5 to 8 year patterns, sometimes as long as 10 years. And then you've got long-term debt cycles, which are kind of 75 to 100 years. And this is generally where he went back 500 years and studied economic cycles over 500 years. And so this is where he includes I can't even think of the currency now, but basically the Amsterdam currency, the Netherlands currency, that used to be the reserve currency of the world. And then that fell over, and then it became the pound, and then that fell over, and then it became the US dollar. And what he's basically saying is that the longest time a reserve currency exists for is around 100 years. Now, to put in perspective, in 1945, the US dollar became the reserve currency. And so somewhere between 75 and 100 years, that reserve currency gets replaced and has done over and over again for over 500 years. And so somewhere between let's do 75 years plus 1945. So what's that? It's 55 plus 20. So basically from 2025, if I've got my maths right, no, from 2020, through to 2045, statistically, there should be a change in reserve currency. And then what he talks about is you've got the societal impacts, you've got the political impacts, and you've got the geopolitical tensions. And what he's basically been trying to say for a while is that in this decade, so in the decade of 2020 to 2030, all of these cycles are intersecting. So the long-term cycle, the short-term cycle, and everything in between. And what he's basically was talking about here in that video I shared with you, now it only came out a day ago, so it's quite up to date, was he was talking about the conflicts, the geopolitical conflicts we got between China, Russia, and America at the moment. He was talking about the reserve currency. He was talking about inflation and the impact that inflation's having and what, to invest in. And two of my takeaways, and I know that that they say when you're looking for something, like say, for example, you're wanting to buy a Mercedes-Benz, your activated, what's it called? Your starts with an R. Your rhetorical activated system or something. That's not right, but anyway, it's something like that. Makes you look for stuff. So I'm fully aware of that. But what I find really interesting, around the 12th minute, he talks about how we have to democratize, and if we don't solve the wealth gap, it's going to lead to a massive problem. And that the most important thing that we've got to do as a society is focus on. There we are. Reticular activating system. There we are. I knew it was RAS. I just didn't know what the R stood for. So thank you, Willem, for giving it to me in terms of that process. But yeah, so around the 12th minute, he talks about democratization, which I just thought was cool based on what we're doing. And then around the 26th minute, he spoke about, again, the single most important thing that people can do based on all this uncertainty is diversification. And again, diversification across countries, currencies, and assets is what he says over and over again. Now, just as my interest, am I sharing my screen with you? No. So did I share my screen with you there when I was sharing the PowerPoint? Yes, no? I did. Okay, cool. Sorry, I sometimes forget that I've switched it on and off in terms of the process. So I just want to find you quickly. I'm gonna find a quick video for you because I did a life hack on Ray Dalio. I will explain a little bit more about him for those that here we are. So this video, when did I do this video now? Yeah, so there we are. So you've got the link in there basically. So if you want to go and kind of understand everything,
practical economic template,
everything that I've just spoken about, I basically did this, and I did this a couple of years ago. You can see it was 4 years ago. But it doesn't change because what he's basically talking about is over like a 500-year period. So you can see here, if you go, I've put the link in, and it's where it was called the Changing World Order, according to Ray Dalio. And that's what I did. If I go in, there's 2 videos that I've done. The other video I did, so I call these wealth hacks, where I basically go in and I take someone and I really try and reduce the information that you need to know about them. So the other one that I did was, no, that was just why you should attend. Okay, so the bottom line is I've given you the video. Now, the other thing that's important, for those who don't know who Ray Dalio is, and I just want to share this slide with you, which I think is probably the most important thing, is that about 40 years ago, he started his own hedge fund from an investment perspective. But what I find really interesting is look at this here. So basically what he says, so this is his book, and he says the single most important component to financial success is diversification. You must diversify across assets, within assets, across markets and currencies and across time. And that you need 15 uncorrelated bets, an attractive array of assets that don't move in tandem, reduce risk by 80%, and a risk return ratio increases by a factor of 5. Now, again, I've said this lots of times, you've all heard me say this, like that's a massive bloody mouthful. But actually all he's saying is you need 15 quality assets. And if I play this little video for you again, because I think it's really important, this is what he had to say in a TED Talk.
So what the individual investor needs to do is know how to diversify well. So the word that I would know how to diversify well and in a balanced way, to diversify it in asset classes, to diversify it in countries, to diversify it in currencies, to know how to diversify that well so that you have wealth diversification is important. Do not think that cash is a safe investment. Cash is almost always the worst investment. So you have to think about that. You should think a little bit unconventionally. Diversify well, be humble, don't market time, and be conscious of the dangers of cash.
So that video that I shared with you now is really all about that. But you can see in this TED Talk, it was the most important thing for an individual investor is to know how to diversify well in a balanced way. You need to know how to diversify in assets, countries, and currencies. Knowing how to diversify your wealth is the single most important thing. So that's the first thing I want to show you. And the other thing I want to show you, which I think is probably extremely important, is that those are his financial results over the last 40 years. So to put that in perspective, he manages $160 billion in assets under management, and he's got an average return, CAGR, of 21% every year for 40 years. It's pretty bloody amazing. Okay. Now, it's easy to get a 21% return if you're managing $100. But the more money you manage, the harder it is to actually get a very good return. And so I loved his book, Principles. It's a serious mouthful to read because he talks about all the principles and everything in between. It's a very good book for life in general. But for me personally, of all the people on this planet that talk financials, I follow Ray Dalio more than anyone else. So I'm just letting you all know that. You know, if I'm honest with you, and if you don't mind if I speak freely now, you know, Robert Kiyosaki will always tell you, you know, doomsday and the stock market's going to crash and you should invest in gold, but then on the side he has a company selling you gold, or, you know, or doomsday and you should invest in property, and then he has a company on the side selling you property. The thing with Ray Dalio is you and I need $100 million to invest with him. $100 million. So the point being is that, like, when he shares and he puts stuff out on LinkedIn or whatever, like it's 100% because he wants to give back legacy, not because he's trying to get our money. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So I think our interests are very aligned. Whereas most other people you listen to have some vested interest towards what they are trying to promote. So I'm just telling you that's why I follow him. And if you go to LinkedIn, he actually does most of his stuff for free on LinkedIn. So again, if I share here quickly. So you can just follow him on LinkedIn. But this book here is another amazing book, The Changing World Order. You can literally see the graph that I just showed you. And by the way, you don't have to read the whole book because I've read it for you and I turned it into a masterclass, which I've already just shared with you. But basically, you can go to all his articles. So if you go here, you can. This was posted 3 days ago, and then you can literally read. You know, if you want to know anything about economics, in my opinion, he's the best guy by a long way. So, any questions with regards to Ray Dalio? And again, I've shared with you that link in terms of, you should all have it, that YouTube link, if you want to go and watch it. As I say to you, it's about 4 years old, but it doesn't actually matter. So the video I did was 4 years ago, but it doesn't matter because I took that book, The Changing World Order, and it's all about long-term principles. It's not about short-term principles. And then that video that I shared with you is just more of an update because obviously it talks about the Ukraine crisis and Trump coming into power in America first and the Chinese conflict, et cetera, et cetera. So why I thought this was relevant for the Q&A. And by the way, as part of the Q&A, anyone can put up their hand, ask any questions, type in the chat box, ask any questions. But the other thing was, and I know that Alan, you here, Shona, you here, I don't know if there's any other Mastermind members that are here. Because we had a fascinating session with James Paynter on Wednesday. And I find that a little bit, well, I find it very interesting, but also a bit scary. And to put in perspective, my son, who is 12, when we went to bed that night, because he sat and listened to the whole thing, he said, Daddy, what will happen to us if the market crashes? Okay, interesting. So you've got a 12-year-old listening to the fact that James Paynter is giving us a high probability of the market losing anywhere between 60 to 85% over the next 5 years. Now, yeah, it's one comment, and I'm not saying it's 100% accurate. I just want to find my just give me 2 seconds. I want to find my notes for you. So I don't have his presentation. He doesn't share it with me because it's his IP. But let's see what I can find, because I did screenshot some of the slides. Boom, 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 boom. Here it is. So just by the way, as a wealth hacker, so as a wealth hacker and or mastermind member, you have access to James. So if you go to the classroom, and if you go to Wealth Going Global, and you go to currencies, the currency conundrum, okay, this presentation, James literally takes you through how, what are the 3 major, challenges that face all of us in terms of investing. He literally takes you through the entire process in this. So if you go here, like, he literally takes you through the whole thing. And if you're in the mastermind, it's the exact same thing. You go to Wealth Going Global, and you go to currencies. So you both have access to this. So the whole explanation of how it all works on Wednesday night at the mastermind level, he gave it again, where he explained how it all works. I think there's 2 things that I would say to this. The one is that the best way I can explain it is I can go into all the technical analysis and Elliott wave theory and all of that stuff. But to be honest, that goes over most people's heads, including mine. But what has always made sense to me was the weatherman. So the weatherman tracking weather patterns, and they've been doing it for decades and centuries. And by spotting the patterns of the weather, they can kind of forecast the future. Again, just type in the chat box if that makes sense to you, because that's the way I've always understood it in terms of, let's call it the weatherman. Because I always joke with James, and I say this to his face, so I'm not talking behind his back, but he's a propeller head. He's a guy that crunches data and whatever. And I always try and sit there and try and make sense of his complicated data. But for me, the weatherman thing makes sense. So what I find really interesting was the first time that he told us this was in 2020. So you can see here, this slide here, the S&P 500 recap from April 2020, a mega crash is coming. But you can see here, this was, in terms of timeline, etc. Now, what I find really interesting is that this was the latest slide. So I just screenshotted some of his slides. I can't share them, but yeah, just for my own use. So if you look here, we're sitting at 2024. Okay, so if you do that, like, we up somewhere near the top. Like, it might keep going up a little bit more, but the way that Elliott curve, and I'm not going to explain it in detail because you've got access to go look at the detail, but it goes in 5 waves. There's wave 1, there's wave 2, there's wave 3, there's wave 4, and there's wave 5. It literally works with predictability. It's unbelievable. Okay. And so he's not saying it'll happen tomorrow morning, but he is saying it's going to happen. And if you look here, the dates down the bottom, I just want to make sure, can you all see this? I hope you can see my mouse. That's 2024, that's 2034, that's 2044, that's 2054. So he's not talking next month or even next year, but he is talking over the next decade. And what's quite scary is that this is like 1929 here, like going back, 1929, that whole depression ball, that's 1929, and then the crash. So this is back to like the last major correction, and this is how this stuff works. So for me personally, this is something that someone really needs to kind of take into account. Because again, back to diversification, it's a double-edged sword. Can anyone remember, and I'd love to know if the mastermind members can remember, what was the total return, the total average return that the S&P gave last year, 2024. So Anthony took us through it. He gave us the number on Wednesday. Can anyone remember? The average return if you had your money in the S&P, 500. Anyone? Anyone? See, this is that moment where I'm the school teacher seeing if you were taking your notes and listening. It was 23%. So on the one hand, if you have doomsday theory and you and all you do is look at James and you're like, oh, the market's going to crash, I can't be in the stock market. Well, the problem is last year you lost out on a 23% return. Now the average return for the S&P is about 9.5%. So 23% is significantly above the average. And I know Alan and others complain about fees, but this is that moment to go and ask, our financial advisors and say, well, if the market on average has done 23%, what did you get me? Like, seriously, that's a good question for people to be asking their financial advisors. But there were two major things that I took away from this. So the first was this. Okay, and I'd love anyone to give me your thoughts, whether you can type it or write it in, because one of the things that Micheline said to me this morning, she said, yeah, but I did really well in the market, last year. And I said, I agree with you. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be in the market. And I think there's massive value in having Anthony in the family office and they look at it. But back to what Ray Dalio says with diversification, you sure as shit can't have all your money in the stock market with this type of projection. And what's interesting to me and different to Robert Kiyosaki, James has always just called the market, whether it was going up or down. I've known him for 17 years. I repeat myself for the Mastermind members, but for the rest, like I remember the day when he said the Rand was going to recover against the dollar. So it was going to get stronger against the dollar. And then Zuma fired Nene. And I was like, well, it's going to completely fall out of bed, because basically for people who aren't South African, our president, who was corrupt, fired our finance minister, like literally, who was the only person like holding the purse strings properly. And I thought the currency was going to fall out of bed, and it didn't. It kept improving. And I was like, how the hell is that possible? But again, back to his Elliott wave theory or whatever. And it's happened multiple times for me with him. And so I've kind of got to the point now where I certainly, I trust but verify, but when he says something, I'll put it like in the 80% bucket, that there's a good chance with like an 80% predictability that if he's saying something, then I should be paying attention to it. Does that make sense? I know I sound like I'm endorsing him, and I get no benefit from endorsing him, but he's one of the people I've relied on a lot to try and get the right information. So what I found really interesting is that this stock market thing for me is really scary. He did tell us, and by his own admission in the presentation on Wednesday, he did say as far back as 2020 that this was coming, and obviously the market has done significantly well, for the last 3 or 4 years. So, maybe there's, and he said again on Wednesday night, he said there might be still some run in it. Like, who knows where this exact top is, but it's coming. Does that make sense? And then the other thing I thought was really interesting, so that was the Dow Jones. This was his S&P. So this was actually the graph I found the most interesting. So if you look here, this is what he was trying to say here with the S&P. So we're sitting, where are we now? There's 2027. So we're sitting maybe here, like sort of there. I can't draw a line. Actually, I can draw a line. So we're sitting like here at the moment. Okay. And so what he's basically saying here is that the market will rise, then it could dip a bit, then maybe rise again, but eventually it's gonna fall. And again, whether this is, it's hard to know whether this is going to be 2 years or kind of 8 years. But what's fascinating is that Ray Dalio, who I trust, is saying something similar, and James Paynter's analysis is saying something similar. And I just, my response to Micheline this morning was, she goes, oh, it's a bit of a doomsday thing. And I said, well, the biggest lesson I learned, I'm just going to stop sharing here quickly. The biggest lesson I learned in 2008. Did any of you learn any lessons in 2008? Because I certainly did. And one of them was, I was on stage in Pretoria selling London property the day Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. That day, I was on stage presenting. And on stage, I was presenting saying, don't worry, London's fine. Supply and demand, there's more demand than there's supply. London property is bulletproof, blah, blah, blah. Lehman Brothers goes tits. London property lost 20% in like 12 months. And I learned the hard way that when there's smoke, there's fire. So, Ray Dalio called the crash in 2008, just by the way, he did. And so in 2008, I was a lot younger, arrogant, and more stupid. And I didn't listen. I was like, nope, I've got all the facts. I know the data, like we'll be fine type thing. And then obviously, because there was smoke. I mean, there was smoke from 2007, if you look back in hindsight, but we all missed it. I missed it as well. Okay. And so this time I'm much more aware of smoke. Are we on the same page? Am I just talking to myself? Like, in terms of just being aware, my lesson from 2008 was when there's smoke, there's fire. And it doesn't mean you get doomsdayish, and it doesn't mean you hide under the bed. And as Ray Dalio says, as sure as anything says you don't put all your money in cash, but you do pay attention to what's going on. So anyway, I just wanted to share with you that about the stock market, which I thought was really interesting. The other side of the fence, which I found fascinating, was this one. Now, I'm not a big proponent of crypto. I've only got a small portion of my portfolio in crypto, so I'm not here proposing crypto or anything else. But I can tell you what, when I saw this, I was like, bloody hell, I need to sort my things out. Because, James, so if I go back again, so we did a presentation when crypto was sitting here around 20,000. Okay, now I bought originally around 3,000, I don't know, somewhere here. My dollar averaging was around $3,000. And when it got to 20, I was feeling super clever. And then I'll never forget this. Like, this is the personal story. It's not a share, I literally remember it. So we presented, I can go find the presentation because all my presentations are recorded. And he said, we're going to retract to about $3,000. And then we're going to go over, then we're going to go back to 60. Then it's going to retract again. And then it's going to go over 100. Like, that's how I remember it. And look at this. Like, it literally retract back to 3. So I thought I was super bloody stupid now because my average price was $7,000 and now it was $3,000 and it looked like it was in free fall. And I thought, oh, that's it. I've lost that money. But then it went back to 60, just like he said it would. Okay, then it retraced again. I seem to remember him saying it being around 20. So it went a bit below 20, but it doesn't matter. It's still retraced. And now just yesterday it pushed above 100 again. Okay, so for something so volatile, Bitcoin's probably one of the most volatile things in the market. And for him to have been able to get these predictions, and again, I'm literally telling you as far back as 2017. So him and I did the first crypto thing in 2017. I just find it absolutely fascinating. And so taking that track record into account, when he then tells me it's going to target between 995 and 375, I'm like, shit, I need to pay attention to this. And I know Kelly's online and she bought some XRP, and I don't know any XRP, but I don't think I've got the slide that he had for XRP, but he showed XRP really going up as well. And then he basically showed what could be possible for Bitcoin, somewhere between 350,000 and possibly even $2 million. And at that point, I started panicking and wondering if I could remember my codes to where my bloody Bitcoin wallet is. But anyway, I just thought I would share this because I think it's really important. The other thing that I thought was really important, I'm just looking through my slides if there were other slides that would be of value to you guys. Again, I'm not allowed to share the presentation, but I just took some screenshots that I thought would be valuable. So sorry, these hidden engines, I couldn't remember what he calls them, but these hidden engines, these secrets, there's 3 secrets to successfully timing the market. That's what I was talking about, where you can literally go and watch that. You've got access to it because both the Wealth Hackers and Mastermind have access to Wealth Going Global, and it's literally module 2, which is about currencies. Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to find, it's all my screenshots from, by the way, that's the screenshots from our family office with the total returns per asset class for 2024. So again, equities markets, in total, the growth equities markets did 26%. The hell does DM stand for? I just had a brain freeze. But anyway, the DM was an average of 19. The value was 12. The small caps was 8.6. The MSI, which is the emerging markets, was 8.1. Commodities 5.4. Global REITs 2.8, and global aggregates minus 1.7. This is very valuable. I don't know if you've noticed this, but it also moves in patterns. When things are going up, they tend to trend up. You can see like the light green is trending up, and then they trend down. So it's very useful to look at this asset class monitoring. We do this all the time in terms of just monitoring. We check in at a mastermind level every month as to what's going on. And then Anthony gave us an update for the entire year so that we can compare 2024 back to 2023. I'm not hearing any questions. I'm just going to keep talking. But this was probably the thing I found most interesting. Oh, I thought I screenshotted ISO 2022. Let's do this. Compliant coins. ISO 2022 compliant coins. So I found this a very valuable little tip that James said, because someone asked him which cryptos would you look at, and he said he would look at the ISO 2022 compliant coins, and it's basically XRP, Stellar, XDC, Algorand, Lotta, Hedra, Quant, and Cardano. So this is not the website he showed us, but anyway, as I said, there were, if I go back to my thing, so it's the global standard for financial messaging, etc. etc. Anyway, this side, I just screenshotted this when he showed us, and I thought, oh wow, that's really interesting to know in terms of those coins. So again, just make a note there, screenshot or whatever. ISO 200 2022. Did I get that right? ISO 200 2022. Yeah, I did. Compliant cryptocurrencies in 2024, and then he just showed us, and he said, right, these are the ones that are expected to move the most in terms of that process. Again, I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm just sharing with you my own learnings. And I think that was everyone's things. Showing you, yep, I've shown you the Bitcoin thing. Yep, that's everything. So, any questions or thoughts to what I've shared with you? Because really what I've done is I've tried to triangulate three things. One is, what is Ray Dalio saying in terms of his long-term trends? So he's got his short-term, his long-term, and everything. And I've given you a recording so that you don't have to go and read a 19-hour book. Two is I've kind of taken James Paynter's stuff and I've kind of said, look, there's some overlap in terms of it. And three, if you haven't figured it out already, now you know why I'm so bullish on diversification, because I'm even property. Like, I don't think you can put all your eggs in one basket. I just don't think it's possible. I don't think you can put all your eggs in one country, currency, asset, or partner for that matter. So also called Ripple. Yeah, XRP is called Ripple for those who don't know. I need more BTC. Yes, Glenn. Now I feel clever. I have all of them in my bag. So well done to you, Glenn. I don't feel very clever. I'm actually dealing with a young guy. He's in his mid-20s. I think he's about 25. I'm not allowed to mention his surname, but he's a billionaire family out of India. Put it this way. They make 90% of the razor blades. You know, the razor blades that we all use, men? They make 90% of them in the world. In the world. So let's just say I've met his father as well. So I know that it's not bullshit. I've been to India. I've met them multiple times. Anyway, they're wanting to launch a cryptocurrency with us. And I'm super excited because this is completely into Web3. And we were there actually in 2017. I mean, we launched our own cryptocurrency in 2017, but we got badly burnt because we didn't actually launch. We launched in March 2018. And if those of you do or don't know, the crash happened in April of 2018. So we launched it a month before the crash. And we completely stuffed it up. Like it was like launching a .com in the middle of the .com bust. So anyway, we went with our tail between our legs, and Lemonway wouldn't let us use cryptocurrency. So we used to use a thing called Bitstamp, where I think it was called Bitstamp. where you could actually invest on our platform using Bitcoin. But no one was using it. And Lemonway was like, you're not allowed to use cryptocurrencies. So for the last couple of years, I kind of lost focus on crypto completely, even as an investor, because we were just focusing on building our own business. And again, if you look at these trends, it's quite interesting what James and others are saying. So what are people's thoughts on what I've just shared? I know it's a lot of information. For some of you, the mastermind members, it's a bit of a regurgitation or a summation. But I'd love to know if anyone's got any questions or thoughts or comments, because it's been a big week for me of information gathering, trying to prepare for this year. And what do I do for myself? What do I recommend others? Because we certainly are in a tumultuous time. What I find confusing is, on the one hand, people talk about the BRICS currency, and then Anthony from our family office will show a graph, and 60% of world trade is done in the US dollar. And he goes on to say that, the Chinese currency, although doubling in volume, has gone from 1% to 2%. So the press make out like it's doubled, but yet it's gone from 1% to 2%. Okay. Now, if it keeps doubling, 2 goes 4, 4 goes 8, 8 goes 16, 16 goes 32, and very quickly it takes over, America. So I'm not. It's not like I'm not aware of the doubling, but it's still a tiny proportion. And what Anthony's saying is the BRICS currencies are so far off, the US Reserve at 60+%. So that's interesting on the one side of the fence, and then on the other side of the fence, you got Ray Dalio going, it's only a matter of time. and I mean, I'm 47, so it's going to happen between now and me turning 70. Fact. So now what do you do with that? Interesting, huh? Some of you a bit older. I mean, if my mother was here, she'd never listen to me, but if she was here, I'd be, Mom, you've got all your money in the stock market, all of it. And what happens if James is even half right? What happens if it goes to 30% down? So yeah, Alan, I agree with you. Study and process. It's a lot. I mean, today is Wednesday and today is a hell of a lot of context and information. And hopefully I've also showed you where you can go get more information if you want. But also not having to read all the books and the things, because one of the things I'm good at, and I apologize if I sound arrogant, but I think I am pretty good at it, is synthesizing a lot of information and then making it easy to understand, if that makes sense. So if you go and look at Ray Dalio's Wealth Hack that I did, and it's 2 hours long, if you watch that, you can save 19 hours of listening to principles and reading his entire second book, which is The Changing World Order. Because what I did is I took both of those and I put it into one presentation. So I'd like to try and say I've tried to help you shorten the time lengths, in terms of the process. I'm always grateful for your insights and experience. There's so much to learn and be aware of in the crypto world. Thank you. Safina, look, in the crypto space, if we want to talk property, if we want to talk technology, if we want to talk business, if we want to talk exponential technology, then I'm all gung-ho. I'll talk till the cows come home because I know what I'm talking about. But when we talk crypto, I'm like a bloody grade naught in comparison. I hardly know anything. Which is why I'm very keen to do this project with Rohan, because it'll really accelerate me this year into the Web3 space. Are there any questions? I feel like this is called Friday Q&A, not Friday Scott speak at you. What is BRICS? So BRICS is a consortium of countries. So BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And it was effectively the emerging economies. We still not, as South Africans, we still don't really understand how we got to the party, because Brazil, Russia, India, and China are like 4 of the biggest economies in the world. And South Africa is, it's there, but it's nowhere near close in terms of size. However, recently, and in the last year, a whole bunch of other countries have joined, and I actually have to Google it because I don't know all of them. But let's just look. So in simple terms, Shona, for you people that live in the first world and have been raping and pillaging us people in the emerging world, this is us standing up and fighting back. And the emerging world is creating its own little consortium to take on NATO, basically, if you want to call it that. So it's the whole sort of idea of I'm not getting involved in the politics, but in simple terms, it is the emerging world. So if you look here, BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So we were the 5 founding members. But last year, or I don't know exactly when, but in the last 12 months, Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Emirates all joined BRICS. So there it is. There's the thing. So we weren't actually the founding member. So in 2006, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and then South Africa joined in 2010, and then Ethiopia and these ones joined in 2025, and then Indonesia will be the first Southeast Asian. BRICS is a forum for cooperation amongst emerging economies, and BRICS challenges Western-dominated global institutions. So even down to there's talk about them bringing out their own reserve currency, et cetera, et cetera. So the key here is that in terms of world GDP, those countries together don't have a massive percentage of world GDP. Like compared to America and Europe and Japan, they don't have a big percentage of world GDP. But in terms of world population, they account for like something ridiculous, like 80% of the world population. Like it's unbelievable. So yeah, I don't know. I'm making up my percentage, but it's they're the countries with the biggest populace around the world. So it's this whole, and this is exactly what Ray Dalio is talking about. It's this whole geopolitics between the old order, which is the Western world, and the new order, which is the emerging world, and the kind of the friction and tensions involved in that. And countries like South Africa get very caught in the middle because we do a lot of business with the Western world, America, England, Europe, and yet with our ties with kind of Russia and China, we kind of stuck in the middle and can't make up our mind, which is terrible because we don't win on either side of the fence. So we support Russia, and then we get, then America doesn't want to do business with us, and blah blah blah. Again, I'm not a politician. I'm not even going to try and speak like one. But yeah, is that document you showed with ISO in the Wealth Hacker portal? Which document? I assume you mean this one here. Would you just mind telling me, Safina, if you're talking about that? No, it's not in. I can put it in. Literally on Wednesday, James shared this with us. So what I think I'll do, I think that's a great idea. I'll go here, and we do have a thing for crypto, or don't we? No, we don't. Okay, maybe it's time to have one for crypto, and we make one of these crypto, and then oh shit, I'm not sharing. Sorry, Safina, I wasn't sharing. Let me just go back to what I was showing you there. So I assume you're talking about this. What I'll do is I will put the recording of today's session, and then I'll just put these links into, so you'll have the recording plus you'll have the links. So this one and this one about BRICS. I think they were the only 3. Oh, and this one, Ray Dalio. Yeah. And the video. So I've got 4 recordings I've got to put in for you basically. So I'll do that. And I'll literally just go here, and I'll do it both for the Wealth Hackers and for the Mastermind members, in terms of just so that you got the links, etc. But yeah, just remember when I do this presentation or this Q&A, there's no prepared presentation. It's just based on what people are asking. Okay, can you let me know the ISO number again? I want to do some more research. Perfect. It was 222, I think, if I got my numbers right. I'll just get it on the screen here. Yeah, I was right. It's 222. ISO 222. And again, so it was interesting because when James was sharing it, I didn't have a chance to screenshot the website that he went to, but I did screenshot the thing because I knew that was going to be important for me. So this is what he said here: ISO 2022 compliant coins. And he said, right, these are the ones to watch. Right. I think that helps there. Glenn, I found the article, found this link. Okay, perfect. ISO 2020. Yep. Okay, cool. Safina, did I answer your question about putting the links up? I assume I did. Cool. Okay. Any other questions that don't have anything to do with Ray Dalio or James Paynter? Maybe it's about the Manhattan deal that's coming next week, or I don't know, the structured note that's coming in February, or the events that we're doing. Oh, by the way, if you're any South Africans, 100% personal, and I'll own my own stuff. It occurred to me that my birthday is happening over the roadshow between going to London and going to around South Africa. And no disrespect to anyone that lives in Joburg, but I don't want to spend my birthday in Joburg. So we've turned the breakfast round. So we start in Pretoria and we end in Cape Town, rather than ending in Johannesburg, so that I can spend my weekend in Cape Town with my family and my friends. So just an awareness that as of this morning, I've updated the calendar to just change 2 of the breakfasts and some of the drink sessions. So like Alan, as an example, you're in Cape Town. If you go here and look, I just want to kind of show everyone, because it's lovely to meet people face to face and to connect. And if you go to the calendar and we go to February, you'll see there that the drinks in Cape Town are on the 13th. You know, and they're just sorting, finalizing the venues, etc. So I'm just shouting out, letting people know. Alex and I chatted about it at length, but it was like, yeah, I want to spend the weekend with my mates in Cape Town and my mom and brother. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Scott. Really appreciate your ability to distill all this overwhelming financial information in simple, easy actions and understandings. Yep, perfect, Thomas. Look, don't get me wrong. I feel overwhelmed as well. Like when I listened to Ray Dalio's video this morning, and again, go listen to it if you want to. It's about, I think it's about 30 minutes long, just short of 30 minutes long. Yes, and I listened to that thing and I'm like, oh, I need to listen to this thing like 3 times because it's, but anyway, the principles of what I've shared is he's pretty much saying the same thing. He's just updating it. Please tell us about the structured note in February. So Safina, we are working with Cashbox, Chad Pope, and we're looking to bring out a structured note, but an income producing structured note. So the last 2 structured notes they've had have been growth notes. And although they got quite high returns, I can't remember, anywhere between 21 and 23% a year, it's all capital growth. And that scares me. It actually scares me quite a lot. So I want to, what we asked for is we want income producing notes. We've had previous notes that have paid anywhere from 11 to 15% in dollars, pounds, and euros in income. And I was like, right, well, that's the sort of thing I want to focus on. And so for me, they're working on it and they're looking to bring one out in February. And as part of the mastermind, Chad is actually going to be running the session on the 19th of February. I know, Safina, you've been thinking about joining, but on the 19th of Feb, he's actually going to be taking us, the mastermind members, through a session on structured notes, on where the world is going in 2025, what structured notes we should be looking at, and specifically why we're focusing on income notes. But yes, the one challenge with notes, and Safina, I can send it to you as an example. So the previous 2 income notes, just so you can kind of read them and see what they were like. Obviously, you can't invest in them, they're gone. But to give you an idea of what's coming, and it's really important to understand what's coming because when they launch a note, it only lasts for about 2 weeks. So there's not a lot of timeline between getting the money into your Wealth Migrate wallet, investing, and participating. Okay, perfect. But just do me a favor so I don't forget, Safina, I know you're now on WhatsApp. Just ping me on WhatsApp and just remind me. I'll send you those 2 performers. Alan asked, what's the difference between Wealth Hackers and the Mastermind? So again, Alan, I'll show you quickly. Let me just get it. I think a picture is the best way to describe it. So you've got access to Wealth Hackers, Alan, because you're part of the Mastermind. But let me just show you. I've got a slide that sums it up for you. Yeah, here's the slide. So basically what we've done, if you want to look at it as a picture, is that, am I sharing my screen? Can you guys all see this? So I just want to make sure I'm sharing my screen. No, am I not? No, I'm not. Okay. So what Alan's asking is that, we built different products over time. So we actually launched the Mastermind. The very first thing we did was launch the Mastermind. And the reason being, we were working with people one-to-one. And then we realized that the people in the Mastermind needed substance. So we actually went and we realized that people need to be able to get on the platform and start investing. So one of the first things we did was get the passive income challenge going. So that was just a simple get started, 30 days, use the platform, get an income. The next thing we did was build the course around how to get the right information. So I realized people didn't know, like, how do you choose between the different countries, currencies, assets, partners, time. So we built the course, Wealth Going Global. Then we built asset class mastery. So over a 2-year period, we met different partners around the world, and each asset class, structured notes, gold, silver, crypto, private equity, industrial property, London residential, whatever. And we did that. And at the top of the pile is our mastermind. So that's kind of what we call our aspirational ladder. And then what we built was Wealth Hackers, which was basically an online community to help people go up the curve. So to answer your question, Alan, you're part of the mastermind. So you're here at the top of the curve, and you've got access to everything below here for free. Okay. The Wealth Hackers have access to Wealth Going Global and Asset Class Mastery. And so they get all of that included. And obviously our aim is to grow them to actually wanting to deal with the family office. So that's why the graph kind of keeps going up. But our Wealth Hackers is kind of an online learning community. And the best way I like to describe it for everyone, I'll send you a screenshot, Alan, if you need that. Just let me know. Would you like a screenshot? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll send that to you. But the best way I like to describe it is if you're on an airplane and we're flying from Cape Town to London, the mastermind is first class, the Wealth Hackers is business class, and then the passive income challenge is economy class. Like that's our kind of metaphor. A bunch of people, and I'm not going to lie, consistently tell me, why don't I just focus on the mastermind? And the reason I don't is because it goes against my purpose. So my purpose, what I believe, is that we fly on the airplane, and if the airplane flies from Cape Town to London, and if we take what we did on Wednesday, so again, Alan and Shona were there as an example, like we have an incredible input from Anthony and from James. And then my job in life is to democratize that again. So again, even on a mastermind level, we've democratized access to a family office. But then it's to democratize it again at a Wealth Hacker level and say, hey, Wealth Hackers, this is what we're learning at the mastermind, so that you're learning. And the whole idea is to keep democratizing and giving access. So yeah. But obviously at a mastermind level, it's one-to-one, it's bespoke, it's personalized, but you can't do that at scale. At the Wealth Hacker level, it's a digital community where we can help each other digitally in terms of it. And that's ideally to empower more people. Remember, our purpose is to allow everyone to invest like the top 1%. So that's why we get out of bed. Okay, I'm just going to send Alan that screenshot while I remember. Any other questions or thoughts for today? Reminding you that the Q&A is every Friday. The idea is for Wealth Hackers and for Mastermind members is for me to kind of turn up. I'll always try and bring one theme. It's quite hard, I'm not going to lie, every single week to cover the new theme. But the most important thing is not for me to talk like I have for the last 55 minutes, and actually to answer questions and to engage and it can be about anything. Just so that you know as well, something we are talking about internally, I'm going to finalize it. We're having a strategy session tomorrow. But what I want to do is, and Alan, I think this was your idea, but on a Wednesday, Alex is going to be live every Wednesday doing the passive income challenge. So that's helping people onboard onto the platform, invest, fund your wallet, KYC, all of that. Every Thursday, we're looking to bring our Shanika school days. And the whole thing is like teach people how to use school. So that's like, just for newbies, how to use school, how's it work, etc. And then every Friday, I'll turn up with, let's call it more high level So it's not how to use the platform or how to use school, but it's more like, what are the investments mean? What deals are coming down the pipeline? What I think about Ray Dalio or James Paynter, etc. So anyway, that's what we're thinking at the moment in terms of the process. Okay, let me just see here. I'm not part of Wealth Migrate yet. I put my application in the last 2 days, so waiting to see what happens. Wanted to expose myself to this time. I came through Paul O'Mahony. Brilliant, William. I was actually talking to Dylan just yesterday and on WhatsApp this morning. And I actually sent Paul a message literally this morning. So fantastic. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. I love Paul. I love what he does. And we're actually cross-promoting. I'm promoting his stuff on the 30th of January. And the way I see it is because there's no conflict. Like, he teaches people how to make money, and we teach people how to invest money. And by the way, you need both, in my opinion. Is the Clem Santa session a webinar? Yes, it is. So it's the 4th of March, and it'll be 7 p.m. SAST, which will be 5 p.m. UK time, and it's the 4th of March. So yeah, that's going to be a big one. So just on Clem Santa, it's funny with Clem Santa. I said I actually wanted to do it now at the beginning of the year, and like, hey, what are your scenarios? What should we be looking at for the year? And he said, Scott, Trump gets into power on the 20th of January, which is the only reason I know the 20th of January is because Clem Santa said this to me, and he said, I need 6 weeks to see what he's going to do, and then I can give you the scenarios. So that's why we'll be one of the first people, if not the first, to get his feedback on where the world is going. Thanks, Safina, for what you said there. And then Thomas said, and then the democratization to $1 billion. You get it, Thomas. You get it, dude. I had a meeting yesterday. One of our brands is Wealth Create. We haven't launched it yet, but that's where ultimately we get down to $1 per person per investment. It's all about mobile apps. It's all about local investment. So it's very hard for a British person to think about investing in America when they haven't even invested in England. So vice versa. You get my point. So you want to help local people invest in local deals. That's why it's called Wealth Create. So it's about creating wealth. And then when you want to diversify, it's about Wealth Migrate. Maybe you see where the big ecosystem that was designed 12 years ago is coming together. So for people like Trevor and others that are, it's all sort of, hopefully the painting's being painted a little bit better. Trevor, I don't know if you were able to watch the recording from Wednesday, but I would highly recommend watching it. I know it's quite long. I think it's close to 3 hours actually, but it really is one of the better ones between Anthony and James with the market predictions on where they see the world going. I think it'd be a very good use of your time personally. Okay, so we are now about the hour. I need to bounce because I've got a mastermind coaching call. I will ask for one thing. So we are going to create a Wealth Hackers group as well. And if you do have questions, there's no harm in sending me a question beforehand so that I can actually, because I'd like to kind of keep a main theme per week. But if people have questions or whatever, reach out to me, and then I'll like almost have a library of like, okay, we can deal with that question, etc. Because, quite frankly, I'm donating my time, if you want to call it, or giving. I want to make this as valuable as possible. And the more you ask questions, the more I can help you. Otherwise, I'm just ranting about Ray Dalio and James Paynter. Like, does that make sense? Cool. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Cheers, cheers. Lovely weekend. Cheers, cheers.